All right, you are listening to the Fighting News. We have a very special guest, well, two guests tonight, and we're talking about a very important topic. Um, we have with us Miss Logan Holler, professional boxer, as well as her coach, Derik Santos. So we're going to be talking about Imane Khelif, the boxer who is causing so much controversy in the Olympics right now. Um, and we're just gonna cut to the chase. We're gonna cut to the chase. Logan, you had an opportunity to spar with Imaine when she was training with Pedro Diaz at Mundo Boxing. Can you tell us when this was and what the experience was like?
Yeah, so I was just telling Steven, looking back on it, I feel like there's some red flags that like I notice now. I found out that one of my friends was actually asked to spar her before we had gone down that weekend. Um, and the trainer, when they showed up, the trainer got really upset and was like, "My girl is not sparring this person. Like, we're not doing that." Like, and walked out of the gym. So that was one thing like I thought about because when Derik and I got there, I think I got there before Derik and Derik got there a little later, and I didn't see Khelif anywhere in the gym. And looking back, like the only time I remember seeing Khelif is when I turned in the corner and was in the ring. And I even remember turning to Derik because I was like, oh, this like this, I'm not sparring this person. Like this, yes, there's women that are more masculine, have more strength, have, different haircuts that look like this, but like you could tell something was different. I could tell something was different. And I like looking back, I didn't see Khelif anywhere in the gym. So I don't know. There's a back room back there. So I don't know if she was like in the back. Um, there was only one other fighter there. So I thought I was sparring that fighter. And so like looking back, I was like, I don't know if maybe they were trying to hide Khelif so the same thing wouldn't happen again because that trainer had walked out previous. Um, but I think it was like after the first round, like I remember coming back, my husband was there too. I came back to the corner, like just smiling and laughing because I was just like, Derik, like this person's outclassing me, like stronger than me, faster than me, and Derik was amazing. Derik was just like, let's focus on this, let's do this, just stay sharp, stay in there. And we, during the sparring, we went, we did the sparring. And then afterwards, I was just like, if anything, like I've never been hit like that in my life. And I told Derik that. So if anything, there had to have been high testosterone or something. And I was telling Steven, I was like, Franchon Cruz, who I've sparred with many a time, is the hardest female to ever hit me. And she's an
Yeah.
amazing fighter. And she fights in the 60s. I fight in the 50s. I think Khelif is like 30s, 40s or something. I was like, there's no way that this person hits harder than Franchon Cruz. And they just had, I was like, you know what? They have long arms. Maybe they just have more pop to it. But, it was just what was also weird too. And this happened to my friend who was asked to spar her. Immediately, Pedro came up to us and was like, I know it looks like a man, but it's a woman. And that like immediately is just kind of like a weird thing to come up and say because again everybody there's all different shapes and sizes to fighters. We don't it just is what it is. And the other thing I thought about too looking back is I remember there was a time where I remember I kind of zoned out, and Derik can tell when I zone out, and he was like, check back in, check back in. And I feel like she and Derik, you can agree with me or disagree with me. Maybe it was just me, but I feel like she like wanted me to quit. Like she was wailing on me, and every single punch was 100%. And it's like she wanted me to quit. And I zoned out for a little bit and just kind of turtle shelled and was like, I'm just going to take it. And then I remember I was by Derik in the corner. And he was like, Logan, focus, and it snapped me out of it, and I fought back. But like it was just like survival. I remember I went home and again, my husband with me, we drove back from Miami. I went home with a migraine and just laid on the couch. And I was like, man, like this was before my Hannah Rankin fight. And I was like, man, like maybe I'm not, I'm not cut out for this. Like this, I've just never had that kind of experience. And Derik, you tell me what you think, but I just never, I told him, I was like, I've never been touched like this in my life, even by a man. And I've sparred men, but you can tell when a man, like they hit you hard, but they know to be respectful and to hold back. She was trying to stop me. I feel like everything was just
Yeah.
it was tough,
Right. So she was
What
hitting
do you
you even
remember?
harder than the men?
Oh yeah, she was. it's hard to explain unless you're in the situation, but I've sparred, it's not even, you know, about being tough. Like I've sparred men because I've had to over the years just because we haven't had a female. And I can tell, like, yes, they hit hard, and I can tell when, like, they know how to control their punches. They know how to hold back. They're respectful. They know that they're fighting a woman who they're faster than, they're stronger than. Um, I knew I could just tell she wasn't holding back, and her trainers in the corner didn't care. Pedro didn't care. But I mean, we showed up to spar, and we had to do a job. So, it wasn't until after, and this was before she got her world championship taken away from her. So none of this stuff was out yet. So when she got popped for testosterone, I was like, oh, okay, like it makes sense. That's what we assumed.
Yeah.
It was sketchy all the way around, but again, I had a fight to get ready for, and I have an amazing trainer, Derik. So we pushed through.
Right. So before we go to Derik, just to put things in perspective, you mentioned Hannah Rankin, but you've also been in the you fought oh, what's her name? Chevelle Hallback, who was a world champion, right?
Yeah,
And some other heavy hitter, Franchon Cruz, as you mentioned. Those are three heavy hitters right there.
yeah. I mean, I've sparred Franchon a lot. She's been so helpful to me in my career, and I will say she's the hardest I've been hit with in the body, in the head. I mean, granted, we have headgear on when we spar, but even in a fight, she's the hardest. Has the most power behind her punches. But this was different, and it's fun. And
Yeah.
it's, I mean, if you look at the fighters that Khelif has fought, the Mexican fighter that she fought said the same thing. The Italian fighter that she fought said the exact same thing. Um, so
So just over 1 year ago, Khelif was disqualified from the Women's World Boxing Championships because of too high of testosterone levels, and the World Boxing Association said it was too dangerous for women to have her fight.
yeah,
So this was a year ago. So the
yeah. So
Olympics Committee saw this and said, "Oh yeah, she's okay now." Like,
well, the story behind that, if I can interject,
yeah,
from
Yeah.
what I hear is apparently the IOC, international boxing, we know that the IOC and international boxing has had a very sketchy background when it comes to the Olympics and boxing, with bad judgments, bad situations. So apparently they allowed her because it says on her passport or his passport or what, whatever. With all due respect, the individual is right. It says on the passport female. But here's the thing: if the World Championships kicked her out, how did the IOC didn't do it? And to me, it's all about either you're taking, and I'm just going to call it out, either you're taking a bribe or you're afraid of being, the litigious situation, right? We just recently, it took a year and something for them to decide to take the wins and award it to the women from the male swimmer, right? Who, you know, transgendered, right?
yeah.
Right.
And so
NCAA.
why did it take so long for the NCAA to do that? Because they were afraid, even though they knew it was right, they were afraid to get sued. And
Yeah,
there's certain things in the world that are just common sense, right? So going back to Logan's story,
yeah.
I
What
get
do
to
you
the
remember
gym.
about that day? What do you
I
remember
get
about?
to the gym, and I remember there was other people working. We're looking around, and I think there was two girls that I saw, and one was short, and but looked like maybe she could be heavy enough to be a 47 or whatever. And I said, well, maybe that might be the girl. But then the girl stopped working, so like, our first thought was, wow, we came all the way down here. There's no girl, you know. But and I want to preface this because I've always been very respectful and worked very well with Pedro Diaz. So I don't even know that Pedro Diaz himself um, really knew yes or no, rather what he was told, right? And so, like any other coach, you get a fighter brought to you, right? and they're gonna pay you. She had a contingent of people with her. It wasn't like she was there by herself. She had backers, and he did come up to me and say, "I know what you're gonna say. It looks like a guy. It looks like a guy to me." He said that, but he also said her people assured me it's a girl. So I'm like, okay, this is why we went ahead and went with the sparring, right? Now, Logan's not giving herself enough credit. She actually held her own for a bit in that sparring and did fight back, and I was proud of her. But one thing that I noticed, I was like, you can tell different. I trained a lot of women in my life too. The consistent hard punches, like Logan said, she was trying to throw everything with just as hard as she could. But the consistency, the speed, and the pop, I've never seen any women do that. I mean,
Right.
you got fighters that are fast, like a Clarissa Shields, who's big and fast, right? So she's got an engine, she throws volume, whatever. You got some other fighters that, like she mentioned, Franchon can sit down power. This individual was displaying both fresh every round. And if I'm not mistaken, we did like 5 or 6 rounds, and it was like, all right, it's enough, you know? And then later on, as Logan said, that story was that story came out. First, I heard a story on ESPN that said a fighter comes out of nowhere, a female fighter comes out of nowhere and is winning these international competitions, and it was her or him,
Right.
right? Then came out the story about the beatdown of one of the top Mexican amateurs. Then I'm gonna keep names out of it just to um, keep any embarrassment from people down here in our neighborhood. But then I went to another uh, coach's gym who I respect too, and he walks up to me and he asked me, he said, "Hey man, this individual, I had to spar with my fighter. Now I've seen all these girls spar, and they're all tough. I've seen them work like good hard rounds, right? So it's not like saying, oh, these girls are just weaker and this one just happens to be gifted, right? I've seen these girls all put in hard rounds. And one particular girl that he had who's tough, he told me that this individual brought his fighter to tears and got through it.
Really?
They stopped, yeah. I think they stopped it in 4 or 5 rounds, whatever it was. Brought the fighter to tears, and he was like, "What do you think? Looked like a man to me." And I was like, "Yeah, I'm not doing that anymore, right?"
Was
Then
this a
Logan,
pro fighter? I know you don't want to mention names, and we're not going to ask you, but
no,
was it a professional or?
it's a fighter is looking to go professional, but
Okay.
the fighter, I've seen this fighter spar, and she's tough, and she's got size, and I've seen her spar well. So for a fighter, even to be like that, I've seen Logan spar countless rounds, and Logan told me I'd never been hit like that. I remember she had a little bit of a shiner in, but you could feel the snap of the punches every time, bam, 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 when she was landing, right? Now, after a while, the individual disappeared from South Florida. I didn't hear about this anymore until now with the Olympics, right? So here's an interesting thing. There was a runner. Man, I'm forgetting her name right now. Last name Centamia, maybe. This is a woman. All the women parts, including vagina, all the women parts, but she was born without. She had a weird condition when she was born without a uterus. Woman in every way, but born without a uterus. So she had to take these hormonal shots to so that she can feel right, normal like a woman, right? Vagina and everything and all that. Guess what? The IOC kicked her out of the Olympics. She wrote a book about her battle. And so the Olympics kicked her out and said, well, your hormone levels are different because you're taking these shots, even though this person for sure is a woman.
Right.
Now, So now we're on a level of hypocrisy. I wish I could remember, you know, I had so many things in my mind, so many fights coming out. I wish I could remember the name. But she
Right.
wrote a book, and anybody can look this up. It's a runner. It was in the Olympics, and they were like, nah, you have an unfair advantage. But now we have a situation here where it's like the IOC is not even addressing the issue. I
Right.
haven't seen
Well,
a
Derik,
comment anywhere other than them saying, well, her passport says it's a female.
Yeah. They
yeah,
put out a statement earlier, someone, I don't know who the official is, and they said the only thing they had to say was that Khelif has, or both of these individuals, they were like, have won and lost against women throughout the years, kind of validating that, oh, well, women have beaten them, so it's okay. And then talking about that there's been like misreporting of that it's transgendered issue, and it's not. Obviously, they're born with the XY chromosome. It's not a transgender thing, but they came out, I don't know if it was a couple hours ago or when it was, and talked about that. And then talked about how kind of validating that women have beaten these individuals. Therefore, it's possible, it's okay. So it was just kind of like a brushing off of this issue, which to
Well,
me
you
is,
know, it's interesting because even, I mean, I'm going to go even further with this. Look at the mannerisms of this individual. We're look. Any man can look at the mannerisms of this individual. There's nothing feminine about the individual.
yeah.
You know.
right. So,
And I'm not even
and
talking
we
about
want to
looks, just the
clarify.
mannerism. So if
Yeah.
if a runner that was proven to be female got kicked out because of elevated hormone situation, right? Even though she had a medical condition that said she needed that, and she's fighting for her right, why does this person get to fight?
Yeah. And if you
Right.
don't
So
adhere
we
to the
want to
rules,
clarify
then
just
what's,
two things.
yeah.
The first one is, we're going to change the title. We know that this individual is not
Yeah.
transgender,
It's not the,
and in a case of being born with an XY chromosome, it would, I think the term that they use now is intersex, or there's another term that they use, but it's not. It's different than being
yeah.
a transgender individual. That's number one, and number two, the issue with the governing body and the from what I understand is that this individual did fight in the last Olympics in Tokyo, when the IBA was in charge, and the IBA is no longer in charge of boxing in the Olympics. It's all the IOC, the International Olympic Committee, and this is the first time they've been in charge of this, and maybe they just don't have all their ducks in a row, and they might not even have a rule in their books that this kind of thing is illegal, and that's where I think the problem would be. So,
That you could be right with that, but
Yeah.
see, my giant concern is, unlike swimming, where your pride is hurt as a woman because you're losing to somebody who might be elevated hormones or whatnot, right? It's not a contact sport.
Yeah.
You know,
right,
this is boxing.
Yeah,
This is
your
a
life,
boxing where you
not
where
on
you
the
can
line.
hit somebody and traumatize them for life, and or
Yeah.
damage them for life, or even kill them.
Right.
Yeah.
yep,
Well, it's like that's
yeah,
why
that's why it's such a
there's
controversial topic right now.
yeah. It's like that's why there's rules in play. It's just like with football, it's like you can't have head-to-head contact, head-to-head tackling. Like we know football is a contact, rough, dangerous sport, but there's rules put into play that don't add extra danger to it. Like we understand as a fighter, we're putting our lives on the line walking in there. My whole life I rode horses at a high level. I understood getting on top of a horse, I'm putting my life on the line every time. But there's no need to add the extra danger, to add the extra issue. And like Derik said, like Leah Thomas, who was which is a different issue, which is transgender, wasn't allowed to compete in the Olympics this year because the IOC said if you went through puberty as a male and then had a sex change after, that you're not allowed to compete. So she wasn't allowed to compete in the Olympics. Again, I know that's a different issue than what we're talking about, that Khelif and them were born a different way. But it's, if you take the take the emotion out of it, take the danger out of it. If you're testing at a higher testosterone level, if you're testing with an XY chromosome, it doesn't matter if you're, born that way. Like it just doesn't make sense that a fighter can be born that way and that's the excuse and now they're allowed to fight. Like, I'm sorry, you can't be allowed. And it's nothing against you. It's nothing against even transgender people. We are accepting, we love them. You do what you want to do as long as you're bringing good into this world, live your life. But in the sports context of things, there has to be a line drawn for women. And
Well, I think that's where people are muddying up the situation right now,
yeah,
because even
it's
somebody
getting
said to me,
super muddy.
"Oh, we can understand your position as a coach, but you're bringing hate towards the LGBT community." And I was like, "What are you talking about?"
Yeah, it
No,
has
I'm
nothing to
not.
do with that.
I've had plenty of friends of alternative lifestyles in my life. Has is absolutely zero to do with athletics, fairness, and to Logan's point. Okay, so if we're saying this person was born, Matt, would you call it unisex or
Intersex is the
with
term they
with
used.
with
Yeah,
physiologically
they
some
call
way
it
inside of you,
archetypes.
you're both you got both men and female sort of chromosomes and whatever. That's still not fair.
Yeah,
However you want to look at it, it's not
I know.
fair. I know. So maybe it's not the person transgendering or trying to, inadvertently do something. But come on, man. There's no way that you can say, well, that's not an advantage.
yeah. Which, I mean, it's
No, it
scientific.
absolutely
It's
is an
fact.
advantage.
It's just
Yeah.
it's just facts. And one like point that people bring up that I think is a genius point is we don't see this issue in men's sports. Why? There's one answer, because you just scientifically, the top women in a sport, not all the time, there's outliers, but the top women in the sport aren't going to compete with the men like the opposite effect. We don't see this problem in men's sports because
Yeah.
it's
Just
just,
built. Men and women are just built differently,
yeah. And that's not a slight
inside
towards
and
women.
out.
And I think women
No,
take it as like,
exactly.
oh, we're weaker. And I'm like, no, it's facts. It's okay. It's not saying we're weaker. It's how biology works. And when we get back to boxing, it's like, yes, sir, like Derik said, for swimming, like you're losing to a man, like it sucks. But in boxing, we're adding that extra level of combat and that extra, trying to protect our brains. Like, yes, I know we're willingly doing it, but, and I don't really have any anger or blame Khelif. And I don't want to speak on the other fighter that's in the Olympics right now, because I don't know much about them. But I'm honestly more upset with the sport of boxing, the IOC, and the trainers around Khelif that are allowing this.
Well, how simple would it be to
Right.
just simply say, how simple would it be for the IOC or anybody to simply say, hey, listen, we need to investigate this situation.
Yeah,
And because you were born with both chromosomes, right? Because of that, we cannot allow this to happen. It's not a personal thing, but we need to investigate how to deal with this situation in the future rather than just letting it happen. Just letting it happen, and then coming later and saying, yeah, which is what's going to happen. I can just predict that already, that they're going to say, yeah, well, in the future, that can't happen. Just like they did, the NCAA did, just like they've done it with, they also did it for a long time. They were letting, a situation happen like that with a sprinter in Ohio. And then eventually they came and said, yeah, I can't do that no more. I don't understand sometimes why there can't be a pause put to things. And like I said, it's not a personal thing, but can be just simply said, hey, I'm sorry. If we figure this out and everything else, maybe you can compete as a pro, which again is another issue because you're still in the same situation with both chromosomes, right?
Yep.
but
Like there needs to be a
Oh, oh,
pause.
oh,
There
oh,
needs to
oh,
be somebody to stop this.
I want to show. I want to share my screen. Hold on. I saw something today. Let's just watch this for 1 second. Share screen.
This will work.
It's gonna work.
Yeah.
You
But the
watch.
other thing is that this story's all over the place. It's been picked
Yeah.
up by mainstream news.
Oh yeah,
You know,
I saw it earlier.
Yeah. Who identifies as a female, should he be allowed to enter a boxing match with a biological female?
Well, the short answer is yes, somebody who is trans.
Okay.
After 20 fights, I was undefeated. Only one fighter stood between me and the belt.
You got this chick, she's nothing.
Tiffany Stone!
oh come on.
What is this?
So this is Mike Tyson. This is basically what we're talking about right now.
But I think at least, again, I don't think it's okay in the pros either, but at least in the pros, if someone came to me and Derik and was like, do you want to fight this person? We have a choice.
Yeah.
You know, in the amateurs, you don't have a choice. Like, you're set up with the opponent, you have to fight. And my heart is broken for this Italian fighter that she had to go through this when she's worked her ass off to get here. You know, again, in the pros, if I choose to go fight her in the pros, that's on me and that's my choice.
Yeah,
you know,
for sure.
But amateurs, you don't have a choice. It's tournament pool style. Like, you have to fight whoever's in front of you.
But it's not much different than
it's the Olympics.
It's not much different. It's not much different than when I go into the ring with a male fighter. I hope, because nowadays there's so many, I'll say it, and I know it, and the industry knows it. There's so many guys cheating. There's so many guys using masking agents and arms or whatever because the check is what matters. They don't care, right? So I had to go into the ring hoping that the person across the other ring decided, let's do this on a just up and up. And if you beat my fighter, great. You beat my fighter because you have better skills, you know, or not, right? Now, in this situation, these women are going in there knowing it's not fair. Everybody knows it's not fair, but they're being forced to fight. So my heart goes out actually to all the girls who have been put in that situation, whether it's sparring or in competition. And, you know, again, in the situation with me and Logan, you know, out of respect, like I said, I don't want to believe that the coach knew. I want to believe, like he told me, that he was told that and looked suspect, but that's what he was told. And out of respect, I thought the same thing, you know, and I thought, but okay, let's just work through this and not, you know, because what if this person is legitly a woman, this individual, and just looks like the most manly woman I've seen, right? So, like, okay, but that's possible. And I don't mean that to make light, but I was in that point respecting this individual and respecting the entourage she was with that said, it's a girl, you know? But like Logan said, everybody's on the other side with grins on their face while she's, you know, throwing, you know, missiles, boom, 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 you know, and you're like, you kind of feel like you've been set up. You're like, what's going on here? And I'm pretty sure that's how some of the other coaches felt too.
Well, you said another team walked out. Another fighter and their coach walked out of the gym and said, no way.
I just found out today. I was talking to one of my friends because she commented on my story, and she was like, yeah, they asked us to spar. We showed up, and my trainer was like, hell no. I'm not, like, if you want her to fight, like, they left. And so that's why, like, looking back, I'm like, is that why me and Derik never saw her? Because she was in a back room. I literally didn't see her till I got in the ring, turned, and I turned back around, and I was like, oh wait, this is like,
I think I didn't see her.
We didn't see her warm up.
Her looks like a him, and I didn't pay attention. I was looking for a her.
But I will say, I didn't see Khelif warm up at all. I noticed everybody who was boxing, who was hitting pads, who was doing stuff. So if they were there, they were sitting down, and they didn't have to warm up.
She did not warm up, not even a minute. She just put on her gear. When she was putting on her gear, that's where we were kind of like, because they were like, hey, we'll be ready to spar in a minute. And we're like, what's that person putting on gear for?
And I just want to reiterate, I know we talked about this
Yeah.
earlier, and this is why I think sometimes, at least for me, maybe not, I don't know for all females, we don't always speak our mind and stand up, because this, again, this has nothing to do with transgender or what you choose to do with your life or anything like that. This is strictly the fairness and the safety in a sports, in a
100%.
sports. And
100%.
I think, like, even with me, like, Matt, honestly, like, you asked me the other day to talk about this, and I kind of was hesitant and was like, no, because, like, I don't want a lot of people coming at me being like, you're against the LGBT, like all this, because I just know how the internet is, and I know how people take things.
Yeah, they've already done that to me.
Things perfectly, they're going to take it
Right.
the wrong way, even though this is like 100% in a sports environment. Like, I am accepting
This is
love
not
everybody.
political.
You choose what you want to do with your life, as long as you're bringing good into this world. But when I saw that Italian fighter fall to her knees and cry, I was like, the part of me for a second that was like, this is dangerous. I didn't even care about what I cared about more was like, this girl has tried. Like, I know what that feels like to work your ass off and to have something fall through like that. And it's the Olympics. And for people don't realize too, like, for some sports like gymnastics and boxing, Olympics are a huge deal. Now, I know it's a big deal for everybody, but it's like the NBA players, like, yes, it's cool to win the Olympics, but like, it's cool to win the NBA finals. For gymnastics, this is their Super Bowl. For boxing, for a lot of countries, they don't care about going pro. This is their Super Bowl, So for that to be taken away from her, it gutted me today. And that's why I was like, I just have to, again, I know I don't have a huge platform and not many people really know me in the boxing world. So I'm not going to get my voice out that way, but I do have the experience of where I was in the ring with Khelif. So I know what that experience is like. And it's just, it's
line,
white. There's no gray on this situation, I think.
Yeah. Bottom line, right. If you're in any sport, right? Bottom line, any female sport, any female coaches, you line up all the female athletes and they tell you, let's just say Khelif looked more feminine or female, right? But they tell you, hey, the 9 of you that are in line are all women chromosomes, and Khelif was born with both. All the coaches and all the athletes are going to feel somewhat slighted. The bottom line is there's an advantage to that. And so regardless of, obviously now, as we've spoken, the individual was just born that way. Okay, well, you were kind of born with a little bit of a female with a superpower. It's still not one that any of the other women have in the field.
Yeah.
Exactly. And the condition itself is so rare, that again, I don't know what the rules on the books are. I looked for them and I couldn't find anything about,
I don't know if they've had the situation enough to even make the rules. I know I read that the IOC for Leah Thomas for swimming was going to create a transgender league or a transgender division moving forward for some situations. But again, I know this isn't technically a transgender situation, but yeah, I mean,
Right.
I don't think they've had to deal with this, but the only thing that I don't know when the gender test was and when the testosterone pop was, but to me,
year.
Okay, but I don't know which one was first. So say she is female and she's born.
Sorry, Logan. On her passport it says
female, right?
Female.
Yeah.
Okay.
So
on the passport,
even past the situation that we're talking about, if she pops for a high level of testosterone, like that should be enough to exit out there. Like,
yes,
you can't. So say she's a woman with a I don't know what the science is behind it, with a naturally high testosterone level, and it's past the level that is allowed. We can't say, oh, she naturally has a high testosterone, she's fine. Like, what's the point of the rules then? Like, it's just, even if she's born that way with I've had my testosterone checked and I have a higher level. It's not like the illegal limit, but I have a higher level. It's easier for me to bulk up, get muscle. Like we're born that way. Some people don't, some people are. But if she goes past what the legal limit is, we can't just say, oh, she's born that way, she gets a pass. Like she should have the consequences for that, whether she's taking something or whether it's she just naturally has a higher testosterone. It's like saying if a fighter comes in and pops, oh, it's okay. They naturally have that in their system. They can fight again. Like Ryan Garcia just got a year suspension for like an extremely, extremely small amount of whatever it was. I mean, it's just, why isn't she being held to that standard? She popped for testosterone, not even worrying about what the gender test said. She had her medal stripped from her from world championships. Why isn't she getting suspended for that?
I think this has, again, a lot to do with the litigious side, deciding on whether they want to approach this or not, or even getting, legalities behind it. But if you don't have rules set up, and if you have a question where you have to get sort of a conglomerate of people together and figure out whether you need to make a rule then the competition shouldn't be allowed.
Yeah.
Right. And also, that they did that with the thing with the IBA and the IBA not being in charge anymore. A lot of the boxers in general qualified for the Olympics just by winning some other competition. They didn't all have trials like we do here in the United States. They won the Pan Am games or something like that, and that's how they qualified for the Olympics. So who knows if they ever got tested for anything, what organization tested them. We do know that Khelif and the other girl from Taiwan both tested. They failed the gender test. They have XY chromosomes as well as high testosterone levels. That's the only thing that's really
But listen to
been
what you
made
just said, Matt.
public out there.
They failed a gender test.
Right.
Which means that a medical,
that's how it was reported.
You failed a medical, which is a scientific fact, regardless of how you want to. If you're born, say with both chromosomes, you want to live like a man, or you want to live like a woman, or you want to legally have something changed. I don't know how that works around, but they failed the gender test. That's the highlighted part.
Right.
They failed the gender test, but they were allowed to compete despite the fact that they failed the gender test. I mean, that can't be stressed enough.
I know, but who was looking at that?
Most of the time, but let's look at things that happen legally in this world, right? What do they say? Legal precedent, right? A lot of times, legal precedent, when you go to court, if judgment has been done a certain way, they usually are going to judge a certain way if you're caught for a certain infraction, right? Because that's the way the courts have been ruling. So if he was stripped and failed at the world championships, all intents and purposes, you're disqualified, right? Shouldn't that in itself has set a precedent for the IOC to say, whoa, can't do this?
Yes, but that's only if the IOC was communicating with the IBA who tested them last time. Who knows if they were or if they care?
Yeah,
they
but
might not care.
everybody knew the world champion. The fact that she got stripped out of the world champion, that was news. And I guarantee you that anybody that's involved at high levels of the amateur sport knew about that, read that news, saw that news.
Right.
So they cannot, I refuse to believe that they can play dumb and say, well, we didn't know about the world championships situation. Yeah. That's not going to happen. I mean, that's, the same way that when a fighter gets caught, when a fighter gets penalized, like Logan said, like Ryan Garcia, or an athlete gets suspended in any other sport, usually the people all around the world involved in that sport know about it.
Exactly. And, Logan number one, thank you for coming on, because I know, at first you were a little bit hesitant,
Yeah.
and I understand that. I understood it right away. But you just reiterated exactly what the Mexican fighter who fought Khalif in the World Championships last year said, and what the Italian fighter just said. I've never been hit like that before.
Yeah.
So, there's an unfair situation. It's not about politics. It's not about the LGBTQ community or anything like that.
Yeah.
It's about fairness, and it's about someone potentially getting very hurt unnecessarily. You
Yeah.
know.
And I'm like, I mean, this news is everywhere. It was on Fox News. I've seen it everywhere. So I just hope that people in the sport, speak up. I saw Derik had posted that Oscars has said something. Even Jake Paul, like I saw, offered for the Italian to come fight on his undercard. Like that's the kind of stuff we
Yeah.
need. We need everybody. And again, it's not a slight or anything negative towards Khalif at all. And I want people to understand that. It is not. It is just fairness. It is rules. It is just how, it is. She's just going out there and she's doing what she knows what to do. She's training hard and she's fighting. And that's
Well,
our job as fighters.
Matt, you just cleared up a good point, which is probably why a lot of people were jumping out. When I was asking I wanted clarification on the situation, on her biological situation, right? And people were jumping out, oh, that's going to push hate, transgender hater. Okay, so we know now it's not transgender, but we also know that the individual is born with both chromosomes, not just women's chromosomes. So however you want to look at that, that's unfair. And that's the
Right.
bottom line. Let's not like blur the picture and say, well, see, it's not a transgender athlete. Okay, but it's an athlete that was born with male chromosomes. How do you want to get around that? Let's not blur the picture. Let's not spin, smoke around and smoke and mirrors, how they say it, and confuse people about what's going on. The bottom line is the person has male and female chromosomes.
Right. And it's up to the organizations that sanction these fights, in this case, the IOC. If boxing does continue in the Olympics, because that's up in the air as well, and the IOC is going to continue to oversee it, they need to be the ones that are going to say, okay, these are the rules. They can consult the scientists or whoever, the experts, and understand that this is an unfair advantage, especially if the testosterone levels are really high. But you said the way she moved was more characteristic of a male than a female. Just
Yes, that's
you
true.
know,
The mannerisms and the mannerisms I've seen from the person, the mannerisms, the way she punched, the way she walked, the way, I mean, if you look like everybody, and again, now I'm gonna say this because it's no disrespect, like Logan said. If apparently she wants to, has both chromosomes, but feels like a woman, wants to live like a woman, whatever,
Mhm.
her mannerisms aren't like that, and she doesn't look like that, and I don't know, and her genetics aren't like that, so I don't know how else you want to categorize that.
Yeah.
It was clear as day, and then that's why even they want to preface it with, hey, I know looks like a man, but we've been told it's a woman. When you have to go tell people that,
Yeah.
yeah,
That, to me, that was like the first red flag. Cause it's like, again, we've sparred women that look like men, like that are more masculine or look a certain way or choose to, look a different way. But we've never had someone come up and be like, hey, I know she looks like a man, but that was just weird that it's like they were trying to cover their tracks a little bit coming up and saying that. And they had done that to every trainer, because every trainer had told us the same story, that they had come up and said that to them. But again, I've sparred women that are more masculine, that may choose to look this way or do that. And, we don't question it. But
I've never
right.
seen a girl I've never seen a girl consistently throw with that kind of force.
Yeah.
Never.
I've never
And,
felt it.
and round every round, there was no. I've seen a lot of champion women spar. I've seen a lot of good boxing women spar. I've seen them do really well. I've seen them land hard punches, here and there. But women or men, even the men can't do that, right? But women and men are different, so you're gonna get maybe more snappy or harder punches you may see in a sparring from men, like consistently, instead of just one-offs. She was like on the gas the whole way, like
Yeah.
everything was hard and snappy, and it's like, I'm sorry, no disrespect to women. Like I said, I train plenty of women. I love working with good, talented women. I've seen a lot of talented women, and even if we want to talk about the top female fighter that's in the news, whatever these days, even like a Clarissa Shields, who has the motor, right, to throw that kind of volume, but we know, that type of punch and that consistency in punch we don't see it, right? We just see the motor, the good combinations that over and over and over again, right? So
Right.
that in itself is, to what Logan said, eye raising. And as Logan said, French on, I know French on is strong. French on is a strong woman. She can punch hard. I haven't seen French on in her. I've been a fan of French on, seen her fights. I haven't seen her being able to consistently throw snapping power like that just over and over and over again.
Right. Yeah, well, that's what we were saying before. Logan's been in the ring with some really tough women, Franchon, Chevelle Hallback, and Hannah Rankin, and who else? Who are we missing,
I mean, I spore Maureen, and Maureen hits like a freaking rock,
Yeah,
but like
she's
but
smaller
again,
and she's
even
lighter in
yeah,
weight, but she's top of her game also,
yeah, and
but
Maureen, but
even
Maureen
a
also
world
is going to be
champion like that,
placement.
even a world champion like her is going to
Yeah,
throw 3-4 shots hard, pop, 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 roll and get out. She can't do that the entire round. She cannot. She does it in spurts here and there, but she's not going to do that the entire round. And she's a 4 belt holder fighter. You know what I mean?
exactly.
Mm.
Exactly. Well, Logan, thank you very much for telling your story.
No, thank
I
you
think,
for having me. I appreciate it.
Yes, we'll have you on again when we got a fight news coming up or something. Or
Yeah, and I think Derik, you have some fights coming up, don't you, in August?
yeah.
Or I guess we're in August now.
Now, August 9th, Josnel Castro will be fighting for a WBC regional title up in Massachusetts. And on the same card, Maureen Shea will continue fighting over there. She's going to fight, I believe she's scheduled to fight actually twice in August, which would be August 9th on that undercard of at Polo Park in Worcester, Massachusetts. And then I believe she's scheduled to fight August 23rd down here at the Hard Rock. And then we have another fighter.
Boxing? The 23rd?
Yes.
Boxing? Was it
Yeah.
heavyweight faction?
Yes. And then we also have Gabriel Escalante will be fighting in Ohio August 10th. So we got a busy a busy month. But anyways, thank you guys for having us, and for I think we're uniquely qualified to speak on this situation, having had been that experience. And again, I all due respect to the coaches out here in South Florida who and even Mundo Boxing, which I have no way knowing that they knew or didn't know the situation. We've always worked respectfully, so I'm gonna leave it at that. We've always worked respectfully and never had any issues, and I'm not gonna hold this as an issue. So I hope they don't hold it as an issue that we spoke out on it, or any of the fighters. It's just a
right.
very peculiar situation.
Yeah.
Yeah, I reached out to Pedro about an hour ago, and I said, hey, if there's any comment that you want to make on this, let me know. We want to hear your side of the story.
I was gonna say, I do wish we've heard nothing out of their camp. I do wish we would get something. It would be nice, but we've heard nothing out of their camp for over a year or so with everything. It would be nice to
I
hear
think
their side.
I think obviously I can't speak for them, but me as a coach, like if I took a job like that and I was told something like that, and then this controversy comes out after, I know that I would have to I would say something. I'd probably be embarrassed, especially if I was told by her handlers or her people that, hey, despite what your skepticism is, this is an up and up situation. I would be embarrassed to have been involved in that situation. Um, I have utmost respect for him, and so I don't know what he's going to make a situation, or if he just wants to forget that he was ever involved in the situation um, like this. And maybe sometimes,
Well, I know
people say
he's there
sometimes
with her now. He's training her now in the Olympics, so he's there. So I know he's seeing all of it because he's in her
well,
corner in Paris.
well, that's a tough situation then. I mean, I
Yeah,
don't know. Again, I don't know what he had to speak for himself
yeah, of course.
in that situation.
Yeah. So if it, I know if it turned out that they're not breaking any rules of the Olympics, how many coaches, you know, do you think would keep going on and try and get that gold medal versus coaches like yourself, Derek, that would say, forget this, I don't want any part of it.
I think a lot of people, because they get paid. Like, here's what you got to understand, right? Those countries, those international countries, they pay a lot of money for knowledgeable coaches like Pedro and others, especially from here in America, to go over and show their techniques and things. They pay a very good amount of money. Now, that said, anybody knows in boxing, I've been a man of integrity. So if I would have been told said person has both chromosomes and, hey, this is going to be good, we got a good chance of winning and whatnot, the said person has I would have stepped away from that situation, because I don't want any kind of part of dirtying my name like that. I always used to joke around with my male fighters and say, if you're doing something illegal, don't ever tell me. I don't want to know. Because I do think that even on that side, like you see, when a male fighter gets caught cheating, what happens? They try to burn the coach. They try to burn the whole system that all the coach must have known. Some coaches, I'm sure they do know. But hey, I'm not 24/7 babysitter. I don't know that I'm telling you, hey, you're natural, and then you're going home and you're juicing or doing whatever illegal SARMs or whatever things that are coming out of your system. And I don't know that. So I've done a good job in almost 25 years being around this. It's been 23 years or whatever, and not trying to stay out of these dirty model situations. And we know that I was dragged into one, and we know how clearly I defended myself and clearly presented the facts of the situation I was dragged into to clear my name. So if I was in that situation, I definitely would either, if I didn't know, I would step away and address the situation and clear it. If I did know, I wouldn't be in that position. No, I would not be standing there knowing that I had an unfair advantage in that corner. No, I wouldn't do that.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Well, hopefully, again, the Olympic Committee will do something about it. They're the only ones that can do something about it. It's clearly not fair. We all wish that these fighters, like the girl from Italy, who, that's the Olympics. That's her dream.
Yeah.
like the fighters that go to the Olympics instead of turning pro because they want to win a medal for their country and all that, and now you're going up against someone who's got a genetically unfair advantage. It's a horrible
Well,
situation, but
to
it's still
to
a
Logan's point,
developing
a lot of
story, you know?
yeah, to Logan's point, a lot of the international Eurasian fighters and the fighters out there in the Mediterranean, a lot of them don't turn pro like the American fighters do and the European fighters do for whatever reason. A lot of them it's because actually, and this is a knock against USA Boxing, a lot of them are very well taken care of by their amateur programs. So as long as they're winning amateur championships, I've trained professionals who had gotten apartments, who had gotten cars, who had yearly stipends, and we don't do any of that for any
Yeah.
of our American athletes. They don't get a stipend, but they would get yearly. There was one particular fighter I remember for Azerbaijan. I thought this guy would be a great pro, and he decided to no because they gave him an option that if he wanted to stop fighting the amateurs, he would work for the sports division of the government. He had a very cozy, high-paying, well job. Look in Kazakhstan, Sirik, right?
Right.
This is an amazing Olympic fighter that everybody was looking forward to seeing in the pro, and he decided that no, I'm going to be an ambassador for sports here, and I'm sure he was well taken care of by his country, and maybe rightfully so, whatever, you know. So who knows? It's not to say that this girl was going to go XYZ far because we don't know that, right? But what we do know is that the girl was placed in an unfair position. We can't say, oh, she was going to win, woe is her, or how far she would have gone or she would have medaled. But we can say that any of the girls that have to be put in that bracket and in that position are being placed in an unfair position.
Mm-hmm.
That's fact.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I don't know if there's any Americans that are left in her weight class in the Olympics. I know there was one that would have fought the Chinese or the Taiwanese girl, but she's out of it now too, I think so. But anyway, we're going to keep an eye on this story and report back on it. And we thank you both for coming on. Any last words, Logan?
No, I just thank you for giving us a platform to talk about it. I really appreciate it. So thank you.
Our pleasure. It's always good to hear from you.
Thanks so much for coming on, guys. Derik.
All
Good
right.
luck next week
right.
with Maureen, Derik.
And thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, Maureen
All right, you
and
guys.
Jasmiel and Gabriel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. You
All
guys have a
three.
good evening.
Okay. Good night, all.
Good night.
All right.
All right. So there you have it. Oh, there's Mike. What's he say?
Mike.
What I feel is being discussed here is something known as, yeah, that Sawyer syndrome. That's something else. I was reading a little bit about that before, but we don't know. We don't know what we don't know here. You know, that's why it's up to the doctors and the scientists and all that to determine. But the fact that she moves like a man, she hits like a man. She's got the testosterone of a man. She can't be fighting women. No how, no way.
Yep. Well, the world reacted today in the Olympics. A lot of people
Yeah.
tweeted. They're very upset about what had happened. And
It's overshadowing the rest of the boxers. That's because this is all anyone's talking about. So
yeah.
we still got Amari Jones, the kid from Orlando. He did very well in his first match. He totally dominated his opponent, won every round, I think, on every judge's card, which is rare. And I think I'm not sure what day he's fighting next, but we'll post about it because that's Florida in the house right there.
Yeah.
Amari Jones.
Let's
Yep.
go.
All right. Gotta run. Thank Thank you all for tuning in. If you have any questions, comments about this, or things that you think we should cover in this story, let us know, and be sure to like and subscribe and check back on our channel, and um, get us some money, some funds. No, just kidding about that.
Sure.
But
So we have Maureen Shea fighting this weekend. Next weekend.
next weekend,
Also, BYB is fighting Pembroke Pines and Roland the Pines 3. Next week we got Jared Kid Gaddy Grant fighting on that card. Yuli the Monster Diaz is fighting on that card. So 2 local boys. We wish them luck for sure. And the Fighting News is going to be covering that. BYB 29.
right, and yeah, and Britain Hart's got a big fight coming up too. BKFC at Sturgis.
BKFC
Remember
Sturgis.
that night?
Britain Hart's the main event.
The main event. Saw her in the gym the other day sparring Maureen. In Maureen's camp. Holy cow!
Yeah.
Holy cow! They watching them spar, or watching Maureen spar Christina Cruz. It's better than most of the pro fights that you see out there. That's
All
just the
right.
way it is.
Thanks for
But
tuning
also,
in. Oh,
yeah, just a final shout out to Jake Paul, because that is pretty cool what he did. He told that Italian girl, it's like, yeah, you can come and fight on my card, an MVP, which would probably be up in the Caribe Royale if she
yeah.
wanted to, because he's been helping the Olympic team, and he's doing a lot to get young boxers give them a platform that they wouldn't normally have.
Yeah.
But they never talk about that. We went to the MVP fight up there in Tampa, right, Steve?
Yes, sir.
You didn't hear him. You didn't go to the press conferences, but I went to it. They didn't mention any of that. It's like overshadowed it. But anyway,
Oh, Mike wants to chime in.
oh yeah, Andy
Ruiz
Ruiz
versus
versus Big Baby Miller.
Coming out.
I'm looking forward to that fight, because I want to see how how they act afterwards. After the fight, because both of them are kind of, they don't act like killers, even though they are killers. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Big Baby talks. He can talk a good game for sure.
He hasn't fought. We haven't seen him fight in a while. He had that he was a Tyson Fury alternate years ago.
Yeah, no, he fought on that big card in Saudi Arabia last year.
Yeah.
Yeah, but whatever. All right. Good night. Gotta go. It's been an hour.
Deuces.
Yeah, that too.